Hey everybody, it's me, Chris. I'm back in the kitchen. DiGiovanni Family Recipes. You gotta subscribe to my YouTube channel. Tonight I'm gonna show you a great Friday night dish, or any night really. Nice soup, pasta fagioli or pasta fazool. It's translated pasta and beans. It's a soup. It's very rustic. It comes from Italy, from the old days, from what's called the cucina povera. That is the kitchen of the poor. This is peasants' food, where they literally would take, the Italian grandmas on the countryside would take whatever vegetables, a piece of meat they had, cook it as a soup or a stew with some beans and some pasta, which was always available. Everybody has a different version. I have 20 different versions I make myself. This is just one example. Take a look at what we got here. So I got some nice pancetta, and you get this at the deli. Go to the supermarket, ask them to slice it thick, about a quarter or ½ inch thick, so you can make nice cubes for your soup. I got 2 cans chicken broth and about 8 cups of water. I may need more than that, but we'll see. A couple cans of small white beans. These are my favorite beans, these small white beans from ShopRite, but traditionally you would use a white cannellini bean. You could use whatever bean you like. I got a can diced tomatoes. This is the traditional pasta for pasta fagioli. This is ditalini. And this is the one occasion when I would cook the pasta separately and when I'm going to wash it off with cold water and not put it directly into the sauce or the soup. And I'll talk to you about that why. I got some grated Parmesan, medium onion. I need some garlic. I got celery. I washed it already. And look at this. This is the floury part, the middle part of the celery. And it's full of flavor, and it makes for soups a great decorative look. So do not throw that out. I always use that for my soup. And I got 4 small carrots here. I'm going to cut those up and put them in as well. Alright, so before I start to make my soup, I got to cut my vegetables. I got my bowl set up here for the veggies. I have a bowl for the garbage, and I'm going to start with the carrots. Now, I would always recommend, before, these are already peeled. I used a vegetable peeler. I just peeled the skins. But before you peel your carrots, I would still wash them, because you get a lot of dirt on the outside. It could get caught in your peeler, and then you'll end up tasting dirt when you cut your carrots. So these are small, and for the soup, you can cut them up however you want. I'm just going to cut off the end parts. And since these are so thin, all I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut it in half. And this does not have to be exact. Usually in my soups I like big chunks, but I want to make these about the same size as my ditalini pasta. So I'm just going to run my knife through and make random sized chunks about this big. Alright, so my carrots are all chopped. My celery, I'm going to trim the ends. And I want these to be pretty small. What I do with celery, if it's big like this, I lay it on its side and I run my knife down through, and then I cut it 1/3, and then I cut the other half in half, and I got 3 pieces. That gives me about 1/4 inch dice, and I just run my knife through. And then with these floury parts, I don't want all these stems, so I want to give it a good trim. And I'm going to leave these. This is a very tender part of the celery, so I'm not going to cut this in half. I'm just going to run my knife right through the flowers. Alright, so I'm down to the end of the celery. And again, with the flower part, just run your knife through. And there's still some thin pieces of the rib in there. And just give it a rough chop. And this all goes in to my bowl. Alright, to dice the onion, I just cut the ends. And I cut in half, and I get all the garbage out of the way. What I don't want to have happen, I never want to end up with onion paper in my food. All right, so I want to make sure that I clear off the board before I start to slice or dice. And then, very simply, this is a pretty thick onion, so I'm gonna have 2 cuts in. Try not to go all the way through. 1 on the top and then 1 on the bottom, and just let the knife do the work. And then I come down and make however thick size pieces I want. It's about a 1/4 inch dice here. And then you begin to run your knife through. And then when you get to the end, just turn it on the side and just cut around so you know you're going to get small pieces. So all my vegetables are cut, and that's what you call mise en place. And I mentioned that in my other videos. It's preparing everything before you start to cook, and it keeps you organized, and it's the secret to being a great cook, a great home cook. So now I got to get my pancetta going. I already got my pot boiling here with some water. I'm going to cook the pasta in there. I want to turn up the fire here to medium high. I got my medium Dutch oven. And whenever you're making soups, I would strongly recommend, if you can get one of these Dutch ovens, they are cast iron. They have this enamel coating, and they have a really heavy bottom. They conduct a lot of heat. They cook evenly, and it makes for great soups. I'm just going to take my pancetta, and basically you can cut this as big or as small as you want. I'm going to start to cut it into about 1/4 inch pieces, and just turn it and start to cut. Okay, so I cut out my pancetta, and I think my pot is hot enough, so I'm going to add my extra virgin olive oil, this nice container I got for my oil. Get yourself a nice oil container. I got a couple tablespoons in there, and I'm going to put my pancetta right in and start to brown it up. Alright, so about 5 minutes I rendered down my pancetta, and there's not much fat on this pancetta. It's not like regular bacon. It's very, very meaty, and it smells absolutely delicious. So it's ready. I'm going to add my veggies. Carrots, celery, onion goes in, and I got to season these. I'm going to season these with some kosher salt or sea salt, whatever you got. Not too much, because the pancetta is salty. And some fresh cracked black pepper. Cook these for a couple of minutes till they just start to soften. Alright, so I'm cooking my veggies just a couple minutes, just till they start the cooking process. And I turn my heat back up to medium high. When you're browning up that pancetta, watch your flame. If it gets too hot and too smoky, which it can with these heavy Dutch ovens, turn it back down to medium or medium low to make sure you don't burn anything. And now I'm going to add my garlic in here. Okay. And you notice I kept my bowl, stirring the garlic, I kept my bowl from my veggies here. I didn't wash it. I'm going to put my cooked pasta in there before I add it to the soup. Alright, so my vegetables have started to soften, and it smells really, really wonderful in the kitchen here. I'm going to add in my diced tomatoes. I'm going to add this whole can. I really like these diced tomatoes in any kind of soup. They not only do they add some extra body to the soup and make it go a long way, but it's just a nice flavor. And what I'm going to do is, whenever I'm adding something like that, another ingredient, I want to season again. Just a little bit more pepper and a little bit more salt for the tomatoes, because they do need to be seasoned. So we're layering in the flavor as we add in our ingredients. Let's let this cook for a couple more minutes. Alright, so I let the tomatoes come to a boil with the vegetables just to really jumpstart the cooking process on the tomatoes. I'm going to add my 2 cans of the chicken broth. And 2. And now what I'm looking for here, and I want to see how much liquid I have compared to how many vegetables. And when you're making this, you can make it as soupy, as liquidy as you want, or you can make it as dry as you want, like a true pasta dish. I'm going to add some water, and I want it to be somewhere in between. So let me see. I just added about 5 cups of water, and I think just a little bit more. So let's see. What do I got left here? Okay, so I added about 7 additional cups. So it's about 12, close to 12 cups of liquid total. I'm going to bring this to a boil and let it start to bubble away and reduce down again. All right, so I gotta wash my beans. I love canned beans. They're really good, but I always wash them. I don't like that stuff that it sits in, the liquid. To me, it's just not appetizing. So I just put them in a strainer like this and then wash them thoroughly with some cold water. Alright, so while I wait for my soup to come to the boil, I didn't waste any time. I cleaned up the kitchen a little bit. I washed my board, had the pancetta on it, and I want to make my pasta. So I got my water already boiling. I'm just going to put a little bit of salt in there. And I'm going to add my ditalini. And you could use as much or as little as you want. I'm going to use, for me, I'm going to use about 1/3 of a pound of the ditalini should be enough. Just give it a stir. Don't forget to save one of your tomato cans. You could use it for your spoon and let this cook. All right, so my pasta's cooked. It's just a little undercooked because it's gonna get a little bit more cooked in the soup. I'm washing it off, and the reason I'm doing this with some cold water, I want to stop the cooking process, and so that I avoid when I put it in the soup. If I put it in dry and let it cook in the soup, it'll soak up all that broth, and it'll overcook and expand to an incredible size, and it will not have the texture or the taste that you want. All right, so we're almost there. I got my pasta cooked, and I stopped the cooking process with the cold water. I drained it. My beans are ready to go, and at this point, my soup is at a steady boil. Now, before I add the beans and the pasta, I want to let this continue to boil for at least 20 minutes to a half hour. And basically what we're doing is we're taking all those ingredients, the vegetables, the pancetta, the broth, the water, we're cooking them and combining them to make a new broth for our soup. So I'm going to let that go about 20 minutes, and we'll add the pasta and the beans. Alright, so take a look at my soup. It's been cooking about 20 minutes on a nice steady boil. At this point, I'm going to add the beans. And the reason I don't add the beans right in the beginning is because they are delicate. They're already cooked. They've been sitting in a can. They could fall apart and turn into mush. So I'm going to make sure that I'm going to add a pinch of salt and pepper. Remember, every time we add something new, it needs seasoning. We're layering in flavor for this soup. Just give it a little bit of a stir. I'm going to let this bubble away for 15 more minutes, and I'll add my pasta. Alright, so our last step for the pasta fagioli, I'm going to add my pasta. The beans have been in cooking for about 15-20 minutes, and it's a lot of steps. It's a long process, but trust me, when it comes to good soup takes a long time. You cannot rush it. So I'm gonna put this in. I'm gonna lower it to a simmer with the pasta and just let it combine and hang out for about another 15 minutes uncovered. All right, so my pasta fagioli, it's done. I'm ready to plate it up. I'll show you how I like to have it. You can see how beautiful it looks. A lot of nice colors. The carrots, the tomatoes, the garlic. And there's still a decent amount of broth in there, which I like. Okay. Now, I'm going to put an abundant amount of grated Parmesan cheese. Okay. And I have here, this is my rustic Italian style grilled cheese. The recipe's on my YouTube channel, Fagioli Family Recipes. And these are spicy, hot cherry peppers. These go awesome in a pasta fagioli. You'll absolutely love it. Okay. I'll just give this a stir. And I'm going to give it a try. Take your grilled cheese, dip it in a little bit. Doesn't get any better. You really got to try this recipe. You can change it up. Use any kind of beans or meat that you want instead of pancetta and make it your own pasta fagioli. Thanks for watching.